So you prepare your jokes, and they're
Yeah,
still
yeah.
that bad? It's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just imagine if I didn't prepare.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was just thinking before we move on to more sensitive topics, I thought we should start with something a bit more uncontroversial. So I'd like to talk about Red Bull Wololo 5. Yeah, so Orion, this was by far the biggest prize you've ever received from a tournament victory. And, this wasn't just a normal event. This was a LAN in a medieval castle, broadcasted live with some of the highest production quality we've ever seen in the whole industry, let alone in Age of Empires 2. And it was a tournament that came on the heels of a year where you'd been struggling to achieve the same results you achieved in the past. So all things considered, as of today, was this victory the peak of your career as an Age of Empires 2 player?
Oh, big. I thought you were starting easy. I just thought I should have brought my trophy over here now, sitting here. But
You should. Bad mistake.
peak of my career. I don't know. It's definitely like a different stage of my career in some ways, where I'm not as dominant as I used to be. So yeah, I mean the Red Bull has eluded me for too long, and obviously I do see comments here and there saying Empire Wars doesn't suit me and this and that, but I always felt myself that when I played Empire Wars, it suits me well. So in some ways, I feel like it also it's been coming, especially after the first one as well, where I got to the final. But a peak of my career is hard to say, but it was definitely one of the heights. Let's put it like that.
Okay, what other tournaments would you put up there?
Well, like for me, the LAN events in particular, other like NACs, for example, we have the ECL, which was a team event. We had the Maldives tournament. Those are all like these peaks,
You
that
would
come.
consider the Maldives too. Well,
Dude,
that makes
Maldives
me
was
very
amazing.
happy.
Like, yeah, Maldives was amazing as a. I was down 2-0 in the final, right, and came back to win 3-2.
Yeah, in
That
terms
was,
of the narrative of the final, that was an amazing game as well, right?
yeah.
The thing for me, I don't know how you feel about this, Nili, but the thing for me about the Maldives is because there was just so much controversy surrounding it, the whole casters thing. I never felt like it was a tournament that was uncontroversial in the way that Red Bull was.
I'm not sure if it was controversial. I think it was like mainly a lot of unfortunate stuff happening, organization being really bad, and sadly the two voices of Age of Empires at that time, Katsuni and Mem, not making it. And then obviously you and I stepping up. I'm not really sure if it was that controversial though. I think it was mainly sad for the two of them.
But I think Viper, something else that must have made this moment, the victory in Red Bull YOLO 5, something that must have made it even more special to you, I would assume, was the fact your father, a lifelong fan of the game and a well-known member of the community as well, was there to witness it live. I told you this many times before, but I played a couple of games with him, Katsuni, and Taff in the past, and sometimes we were even on voice as well. I remember he sounded exactly like you, but maybe that was just the crappy microphones we all had back then. Is he the emotional kind? Did he shed a tear or two?
I don't. He wouldn't shed a tear in person, like, but he did send me a nice message, like when he had traveled home and everything had settled down a little bit. About that, it was real nice for him, and that you get like in Norwegian we say we get a clump in our throat, like a
You
bump
just
in our.
can't speak properly. Yeah.
It's like so. I think it meant a good deal for him as well, and obviously it was special for me as well to have him there, especially considering the narrative of the fact that I hadn't won a Red Bull yet. It was the grandest tournament of all in a castle, everything, and that he got to be there was very nice. I mean, he's the reason I play this game. So
Does your family kind of follow you and your tournament success?
my father obviously follows me, like my brothers and like some cousins. They will pick up results here and there, but only a few of them would actually watch the game and understand the game. Other people mostly hear it. Like usually, if I win a big tournament, it's even making the news now, local news over there.
Wow. Okay.
So that's pretty fun. So yeah, some people will catch it through news outlets, and other words is just like spread among the family if I win something big.
That's amazing. Nili, I saw you shaking your head when I said that this was Viper's biggest prize in a tournament. Something to add to
Didn't you
that?
win like 5 bitcoins once?
Oh,
Dude,
here we go. Here we have that again. Here we go.
I don't remember the exact amount, but I played like this Age of Kings tournament back in the day. Like it was 2011 or 12 even. It was actually the first time I was able to like play and beat or finish higher than, for example, Doubt and Chris on a tournament. Mostly because they didn't show up for the matches and got admin losses. But still, I won the tournament and I was offered, hey, do you want to have like 100 or was it 200 Bitcoin or $100? I'm like,
Oh god.
Bitcoin, that's not real money. Give me real money.
I have absolutely no clue about all of this. How much money would that be today?
More
100
than
Bitcoins?
$100.
I think
Well,
it's like 60k per bitcoin right now.
Yeah, something like that. So that
oh,
would be a lot.
that would be a lot of money.
But dude, back then, I don't think anyone back then, besides the real hardcore
Just to be
enthusiasts,
clear, this is 2011, I believe, right?
think it's 2011. Yeah,
It was Age of Kings, so I guess 2011. Uh-huh.
yeah. It was like, I mean, AOC was the popular game then, but it was like a tournament in the spirit of Age of Kings.
Mm-hmm.
So we were forced to play with that patch. But yeah, young me back then, for me, like $100 back then was like, oh, I can go wild, you know. It's an 18-year-old kid, but
Can buy a drink for myself,
yeah,
or my girlfriend.
exactly. I didn't have a girlfriend. Feels bad, but
Yeah, I know
yeah.
that.
Whoa, low shot though. But yeah, obviously, I should have just gone for the 100 Bitcoin or whatever it was, and be like, yeah, whatever. If it goes up, it goes up. You know, I would be smiling today.
Hindsight is 2020. Nili, if the NEC series is your baby, I guess one could say the Red Bull Wololo series is your nephew. I mean, you were the one establishing the contact with Red Bull in the first place. You were the one advising him. So ultimately, if it weren't for you, we probably wouldn't have had the chance to witness an event like this. And I guess after the success of the first few Red Bull Wololo events, a lot of people were probably hoping and even expecting that a LAN could maybe be in the cards at some point. But this wasn't just a LAN event. It was an event with villagers, with Cobra cars, trebuchets, ponies, castles. And the thing I kept asking myself was why? Why would Red Bull invest so much money in what is still a fairly small game compared to other major esports titles? What's in it for them?
I think they even wanted. Now it's tricky. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say and what not.
Just share everything. If you regret,
Let's just say, obviously, they are a brand that looks out a lot on how they are viewed. And now the Age of Empires community has lots of positive emotions when it comes to Red Bull, right? And I think a lot of people now even bought it, have a better outlook, and I think that is the main goal. And if you reach the masses that they did, I think they can easily justify that investment.
hmm what I guess I'm questioning myself is just wouldn't that same thing be achieved if you were to sponsor, I don't know, Valorant tournament or a Counter-Strike tournament where
They're
at
doing those
least
as well.
but in this kind of production as well? Do you see this kind of production and this kind of money investment in
Well,
Counter-Strike?
we have way better viewer numbers, right? Red Bull is still like they're doing like special events for Counter Strike, for example. They do like 2v2 small maps, instant respawn kind of stuff. And I watched them once, and they had like top elite players, and viewer average like 4,000. Like 4,000, that's the countdown on a normal day for us on Age of Empires Red Bull events.
hmm hmm
So I think they simply saw how big the reach was, and they were certainly surprised with that as well.
hmm Do you think it plays a role that, Counter-Strike people and Valorant people, they're kind of used to big tournaments, to big LAN tournaments, and we are not? This LAN events is still a rarity in our game. Does that play a role? Because they knew the reactions would be overwhelmingly positive.
I think what they might be doing wrong, right? I'm not following the other games,
hmm
but 2v2 Counter Strike instant respawn is just so far off from what the normal Counter Strike viewer is enjoying that I think most people aren't tuning in. But with Age of Empires, Empire Wars, which feels special, feels different, still attracts a lot of hardcore fans, a lot of people that love strategy, love like Age of Empires. Basically, only the real like slow builders, scouting, developing from there are not liking the Empire Wars format. So I think we, even with the special format, had the chance to grab lots and lots of people, which apparently isn't a thing for others.
For other
Titles.
games. Viper, before Red Bull 5, and if we ignore deathmatch tournaments, your last S tier tournament victory was Hidden Cup 3. And that means between those two events, there were 11 S tier tournaments you were not able to win, which is something totally unheard of for someone like me who has watched you dominate the game for so many years. Now, unlike you, I was never even remotely close to being the best in the world at anything. So I'm curious, how does the mind of someone as competitive as you work in this kind of situation? Do you just go like, yeah, well, I had a good run and now there are other great talents too, and that's cool? Or do you still get really mad at yourself after every tournament you do not win?
I wouldn't say I get mad at myself. Why are we ignoring deathmatch, by the way?
You know why. They don't even have a matchmaking on DE.
Okay, fair enough. So for me, the way my mind works is that if I feel like I'm playing bad, then I'll be pissed, or then I'll be mad, right? And especially if I feel like I'm doing my best and I feel like I cannot perform to my level, then I will be disappointed and upset with how I'm playing. And that was the case for some of the events, for sure. Mindset, right? Like I always still, whenever I played ranked games or off stream training games, whatever, even though I didn't perform well in the tournament itself, in some of the training games is probably some of the best Age of Empires I've ever played.
Mm-hmm.
So I still always felt like I had it in my locker no matter what. And the wrist has played a little bit of impact in certain areas and certain events. But in the end, there's also the amount of level around for the players around as well. It's a different level than it was 3, 4, 5 years ago, right? So there's multiple factors here. But for my mind, I've always felt like whenever I've trained or tried to perform, I've always felt like my level is still there. And even though I haven't consistently brought it out as much as before, the fact that I still myself feel like I can play that well is enough for me to still feel confident and feel optimistic going into every tournament. Of course, I was used to winning a lot. That had became a kind of a habit, but at the same time, it's nice. I think it's nice to see the community as well thrive, and I think the fact that more people are winning and competing. I mean, if you list those S tier events, right? How many different winners have there been? It's been a lot of different winners, right?
And a couple of them were team tournaments as well.
Exactly. So I think it's very good for the community. Obviously, I would prefer, from a selfish way, I would prefer to keep it the old way. But I think it's good for the community, and like my mindset isn't affected. I think I still feel very good about my own skill. Feel very optimistic going forward, and I feel like my risk situation as well. I've found a way to improve it as of late, so I'm feeling optimistic going forward.
Mm-hmm. I want you to talk about that in just a couple of minutes. Nili, so in the past, I think it was fairly easy to point out what made Viper's game so strong and what made him so much better than anyone else. I mean, he was one of the fastest players, if not the fastest player. He had the best micro in the game. He was arguably the best at multitasking, especially in those chaotic games. And he was probably the best player in terms of adapting to new playstyles and new maps. But these days, he's not necessarily the best in the world at all those things. Yeah. So, in your opinion, Nili, how does he win tournaments today? How was he able to win Red Bull 5? What are the qualities that put him above everyone else?
Training partners, right?
Training partners. I think the bootcamp did its work. Yeah, I think people were really performing well. I'm still a bit sad that Slam actually underperformed with like the first day, him not playing with proper equipment. Otherwise, I wouldn't be surprised if we even saw like 6 GL members going into the bracket stage. 5. And Viper, why is he winning? Well, he still has all those qualities, right? And even though in his like bad days where he wasn't winning everything, he was always a top 3 player, right? And we aren't surprised that Mr. Yo is winning, who we consider number 4. We aren't surprised that Hera or Lyria are winning tournaments. So it only makes sense that with some variants, you have to win tournaments if you're a top 4 player.
Okay, so you believe it's just the natural variance of a game that's become highly competitive, one has to say.
I think those 4 players take so many games of each other and can 3-0, 4-0 each other in both directions. So I don't think like people are overvaluing, okay, someone won a tournament, they are the best player in the world. And like me with a math background, I'm not going that wild into that direction. And I think like even Red Bull 5 was won by Viper. I can't clearly say that he's a better player than Leary, right? Obviously, game 7, it's close to coin flip.
I guess what I'm more interested in is what do you believe are the qualities that put him in the top 4 level? Obviously all those things that I've mentioned before, obviously, but if you had to choose 1, 2 things that he has and that are maybe at a higher level than everyone else, what are the qualities that you think he has and others maybe have them too, but not at the same quite at the same level that Viper has?
It has to be the macro. I think it's like the late game is just so much better. It's cleaner. How he uses his hotkeys, how he uses groups, army positioning, and just like the risk management starting from Castle Age is something where I see lots and lots of people fail. And when we saw Viper slip up, it's mainly early on under pressure. But did we ever see him throw games after mid Castle Age? Very rarely over the last like 7 years. Certainly, we will find something, but I think he might be the best at managing advantages.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of answer I was looking for.
Strategy.
7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. You know, something that Mem told me, and I think it's quite interesting. Mem told me, Viper, you were maybe, because of all those things that Nili just mentioned, these are things that have been made easier with DE, you know, the whole quality of life features. Do you think that DE is something that's kind of nerfed you because it made all of those things easier to achieve?
I don't think so. I think D has added quality of life features, but I think I'm also good at adapting to those quality of life features. Like you see, MBL is still single queuing, right? It's been out 2 years. No, like we had
No,
had
a lot,
multi
a
queue
lot
now
longer, a lot longer.
for
Yeah,
since user
2015, I
patch.
think.
Yeah, and he's still single queuing. So I mean, I usually if I see a quality of life feature appear that I think is good for my game, I will adapt to it and try to incorporate it into my play immediately. Now that everyone is doing it, I don't know. Do I think it is nerfing me in quotes? I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't think so. Uh,
Oh, is that your new dog?
yeah, it's our new foster dog. She's making noises. um,
That's cool.
I think the answer to your question is no, but I don't know.
Viper, you know, most casters love to create narratives around players and around teams, you know, because it helps keep the audience and the viewers engaged with the tournaments. So while these narratives are most of the times oversimplified, there's usually some truth to them. And now, one of the things I kept hearing a lot, especially after a loss, after your loss versus Hera in Red Bull 4, was that GamerLegion players often overthink their strategies, and that you guys tend to adapt your strategies too much depending on the player you're facing, while the Aftermath guys mostly just do their thing. You know, they play the stage they like, and they don't care who their opponents are. Would you agree with that?
I mean, when we were winning everything over many years back, no one said that. And now we had a few events where we didn't have the same amount of success. I mean, Doubt still won Red Bull 3, right? So, I mean, was it Red Bull 3 or Red Bull 2?
Yeah, it was three. It was the three.
3,
The
yeah.
third, yeah.
So I think people have a very selective memory when it comes to statements like that. But I mean, I wouldn't say we adapt our strategies too much specifically to opponents, but we come up with strategies and approaches that we think are the best for those maps, and we commit on those. Um, Red Bull 4 seemed a little bit. Can you hear the doggy, by the way?
Yeah, but that's cool. No worries. No worries.
Red Bull 4, obviously, it seemed brutal with the way it went. But I still even think to this day that some of the approaches we had there are actually good, but our execution was not great. It is obviously, in certain cases, very high risk, high reward approaches. But yeah, I disagree with that statement as a whole.
So, but you did agree you prepare for maps. So you prepare for maps, but less for specific opponents.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we will look at maps, we'll discuss maps, we'll try civs, and regardless of who is on the other side of the map, we think there's an approach and a playstyle that is the best. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, in certain cases, like for example, Doubt against Leary, he will probably try more marketplace and things like that. But that's Doubt's personal preference,
Mm-hmm.
for example, against Leary on certain maps. But that's not something that we agree on. Hey, yeah, against Leary we should use market, right? So there is individualistic aspects as well, but mostly we prepare maps and approaches and think that is the best for that map. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Would you say that's something that has changed over the years for you personally? Because the impression that I had is that in the past, you were mostly someone who precisely didn't think too much about your opponent or about the maps you're playing. You're just mostly trusted your skill and your instincts. Is that something you think has changed?
no, I still do that. Like I even in the past, I also did wacky stuff and new strategies on maps, but I won back then. So
Yeah.
people, again, they don't think about that. Like I've done so many strategies that have not been meta throughout the years on a lot of different tournaments, but they haven't been people. Well, I guess forget. For example, like when the HD tournaments came around, there was Bog Island. I went Khmer, Fast Castle, Night Fire Ship on Bog Island, and just caught everyone off guard with that. And yeah, just think like no, I always, if I come up with a good strategy, I try it, but I still trust my abilities to the full as well. So
Hmm.
yeah, that
I
hasn't
guess people
changed.
just disregard that because they thought, you'll win no matter what. So it doesn't matter the kind of strategy you used.
7 out of
Um,
10.
Nili, I'd like to talk to you about the question of observers in Age of Empires 2. I personally always thought observers are an absolute necessity, even after Red Bull 1, when a lot of people were complaining about it. And for me, because when you're a caster, especially a play-by-play caster, you're describing, and when you're describing something that's happening in a particular part of the map, it's really hard to have the brain power to speak and at the same time look around in the minimap or wherever else for something that might be important. Because, well, you're busy speaking. But if you know that you don't have to worry about that, you don't have to worry about missing anything important on the map because you know someone else is taking care of that, then of course that allows you to do a better job. But I'm interested in what's your take on that?
I made arguments for observers for years, and if we had more, I actually thought about like creating another spot in my apartment for an observer for NIC3 already.
Hmm.
And like I think it was long overdue. And the main thing why observers had such a bad reputation is simply that we didn't properly test it.
Hmm.
And I think if we had like 3 days of testing, like we always told Red Bull, and which we never got, we had like 2 hours of testing before
Hmm.
the first time we used an observer, and that's why it was so incredibly bad. And then casters being stubborn, oh, that's how we have been doing it. There were lots and lots of discussion behind the scenes, and like honestly, there were some very harsh statements that the event won't happen with like using the observer and such. But I think it makes the job for production way easier, plus for the caster way easier. So
Hmm.
I think it's absolutely the future.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
Nili, where would the observer sit in your apartment?
You know where I have the beer in the small room there,
Yeah,
or
really?
it would have been like next to Felix where we had all the audio, and then I
Okay.
thought about like deconstructing my um, where all my clothes are, and basically him having the soundboard behind him.
Okay.
So I would have moved
I
some
was wondering where
furniture.
would he fit?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it would
it's
have
The
been
really,
attic?
tight.
really small.
I
Throw him
actually
up in the
like
attic?
I drew maps. Yeah, in the attic would have been fun. No, I drew maps and like tried to sit there, and I even like made a file like forecasting for the observer, and I even picked a
Ah.
recorded game already and said like you have to observe this game and try to you talk over it what the caster would talk about now. And I even had all that, but we never got to it because I simply didn't have the space.
Hmm. Um, Yeah, so we already touched upon it, but something else I'd love to talk about is the GL bootcamp. So I think it was 1 week before Red Bull 5. All the GamerLegion members got together in GL's gaming house, I believe in Berlin.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So, when you're in a gaming house with people who are supposed to practice just as much as you are, I guess it gets easier to feel motivated to do just that. But I also imagine it can be very distracting because, at the end of the day, you're in a room playing video games with some of your best friends. So, I'm wondering, how was the whole experience and how much of a role did it play in your success, Viper?
I think it definitely helps because I mean we're there with a purpose of training, right? If we are all online, it's like we're all online at different times. Not everyone is there together. Like Slam as well, being with us for a whole week would never be possible because of time zone. Also, like Jordan as well, he's pretty much a different time zone himself as well, waking up at 4 a.m. But I
Is that
think it
still a
helps.
thing? Is that still a thing?
Yeah,
He
he
wakes up at
gets
4
up
a.m.?
4 or 5 a.m. That's when he's up. But
Crazy.
yeah, just like everyone being there, being able to watch each other, discuss strategies right after it happened as well, and observe each other. We even have like a whiteboard. We wrote things. I think just being there in person with the sole purpose of, hey, we're gonna train, we're gonna come up with strategies, we're gonna figure this out,
Hmm.
helps a lot. And then there's also sometimes a guy that always wants to go to shisha bars, so it's a bit difficult sometimes. But I think for us it was perfect because I mean even doubt, for example, people will mess around and be like, it doesn't take things seriously, but he was probably one of the guys who trained the most there.
Hmm.
So I think it was very good for all of us.
Hmm. How did you guys structure the whole thing, Nili? Did you have like a daily schedule?
Not really, right? It's still different times where they wake up. Jordan always started with some sports, and Ted or Dowd were there a day early. So basically, it was lots of playing, I would think. And then we had different structures because we had to do, for my taste, too much media because we like took pictures and like interviews, and like obviously Gamer Legion had all of us there, so it makes lots of sense. So I actually
Mhm.
would have preferred like 2 more days just for hardcore practicing. And then on the Friday, we basically had an internal tournament, everyone playing against each other.
Of
Where you
course, you
And
did
bring
pretty
that up.
well. Yeah, you did pretty well, right?
I'm so surprised. Um, and yeah, it was basically like people playing against each other, other two are watching, and then somehow trying to organize who is organizing food. And it was not as structured as I as a German would have done it, but it worked out really well because everyone was so motivated and we had so little time to get distracted that
Hmm.
everyone was tryharding.
Hmm. I'm kind of curious, how do you prepare for an event like this as a caster? Do you cast some games on your own with your stream off? Do you gather stats? How does it work for you?
Well, for me, gathering stats is not really needed, right? Since I cast every single event for years. Like, only I would think, like, in the last 9 months, I skipped some events. And even then, I most of the time scroll through the VODs. I cast the qualifiers every single time, so I simply know all the maps and such. That's, for example, the thing that Dave does, right? Before every Red Bull, he casts the last day of the qualifier, simply to get a feel for the meta, know all the maps, because he won't play them, he won't practice them. That obviously helps me a lot as well. And what really hurts my casting actually is training with the boys,
Hmm.
because I'm in the weird spot that I'm kind of the analyst and have to like reveal all the strategies, but I am not allowed to reveal any strategies that are not public knowledge yet. So
Hmm.
that's tricky.
Hmm. Yeah. So, how much of the boot camp was spent practicing with your teammates versus practicing as a caster for
Oh,
you
I didn't
specifically
practice as a cast at all. I
at all?
think I was by far the guy that played the fewest games. I would think I played like 25 games or something, and like maybe even 5 or 6 of them online
Hmm.
against others. And for example, Dowd and Tato on the first day they played like 22 games against each other.
Hmm.
So yeah, I didn't prepare for casting at all. What I do before is serious. I will look up Wikipedia. When did they face each other? What were the map picks? Sometimes I go into the draft and yeah, just looked at captain's mode. But yeah, it's not like I will prepare too much. What I do before an event, like, or between events, I have a file, um, puns, jokes, fun phrases that I want to squeeze in. And
So
then,
you
for
prepare.
example, I have some phrases that only work with Dave, some that will only work with Memp, right? And then I have those phrases and categories, and then I drop them when I co-cast with them.
So you prepare your jokes, and they're
Yeah,
still
yeah,
that bad. It's amazing.
yeah. Just
Awesome.
imagine if I didn't prepare.
Yeah, so that means you just rely on your experience casting all those other matches in the past. um I mean, when it comes to the act of casting itself, you don't really practice it. You just trust your experience of having done that in the past, basically.
Yeah, I think what I'm most improving on is like trying to improve my English, right? And that's simply like I have people watching over my streams, over my YouTube videos, and they give me like feedback on my English.
Hmm.
And sometimes I rewatch stuff. And I already talked about that in a different podcast. What changed my view on how to cast the most was after I spoke to Dash. It's like a desk host for League of Legends. And
Who loves
the,
Age of Empires too?
yeah, absolutely. And then understanding the proper roles, like what is play-by-play casting, like the guy that says hello, and then the color commentator saying, okay, why is stuff happening? And after I understood those rules, I felt so much more natural in my role and what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And I think understanding that and getting into rhythm there really helped my casting. And that is something that could be trained more and could be practiced more, but I think we're not professional enough as casters yet.
Mhm. Um, you guys also had mental coaching while at the camp. Was that helpful to you as a caster too?
No, I don't think so at all. I, for my part, felt that the mental coaching was set up to be a long-term project, and it felt like most of the mental coaching was to give us an open look into mental coaching instead of really going into depth.
Hmm.
And I'm obviously like super decision oriented compared to result oriented. I think I have a crazy good mindset, so I personally didn't take away too much. And for my casting, it had yeah, it did nothing.
Did nothing for you. What about for you, Viper? As a player, obviously.
I would say that it didn't really do anything. The only thing it kind of did was remind ourselves to, mm, like, a reminder of ourselves to remind ourselves that we're actually good players.
Hmm.
Kind of. I don't know. Yeah, like for me, it didn't really. I like the mental coach a lot. The way he talked and what he shared, I think it can be useful for a lot of players and teams in general. But I think for me personally, it wasn't anything new or anything different than what I'm kind of already doing and know myself. So
Hmm.
but yeah, big thumbs up still.
Okay, guys, before we move on, I'd just like to talk a little bit about my early exit from the event because a totally unexpected number of people have asked about it. It was really crazy for me. And one of the funniest takes I've seen on this came from someone on Reddit or AOE Zone, I don't remember. So, do you guys remember behind the drafting table there was a statue of an armored guy?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. So in the last day, at some
Yeah.
point, the statue suddenly moved, and I think it tried to scare Brittany, or I'm not sure who it was. And someone on Reddit said, "Well, now we know where Mojimoto was hiding all that time." I thought that was hilarious somehow. Yeah. So anyway, the short answer is I just didn't think I had done a good job. That's mostly it. And on top of that, I unfortunately did the one thing everyone knows you shouldn't do, myself included. So the first day, I went back home. I rewatched my interviews with Twitch chat open, and yeah, that was a bit of a mistake there. There were a lot of positive comments, but also a few negative ones, and some of the negative ones were just so incredibly vile and aggressive. I mean, how can you hate me so much after hearing me speak for just 20 seconds? It's kind of crazy. Anyway, I knew this would come. Even Riley, who's probably the most naturally gifted host I've ever seen, even he got negative comments, but somehow it still hurt, even if I knew it would come. And I'm not I'm not really scared of being in front of a camera or being in front of an audience. I mean, I'm a professional pianist. I've been performing for an audience since I was 7 years old. But I'm also not the fake it till you make it kind of guy. I need to prepare. I need to feel like I'm prepared and that I'll be able to do a good job according to my personal standards, of course. And for this event, I just didn't have any time. I signed my contract on Thursday and the event would start the Monday after that. Now, if I was doing this full time, that would be totally okay because then it would be just another day at the office. But I'm not, so I never really had a good feeling during the rehearsal on Sunday and during the first day. And I mean, this is my hobby. This is supposed to be fun, and the event was supposed to be all about fun for me. And I just wasn't having any fun because I was constantly in my head thinking I wasn't going to be able to do a good job. And yeah, so basically that's why I quit. This was 100% on me, though. I mean, the whole production crew was amazing, really nice to me. The casters were also really nice to me. T9Me sent me a nice message, Nili too. Well, Nili actually went one step further. So after I announced in the Discord channel I wasn't coming back for the second day, Nili immediately messaged me, "Do you want to talk?" Which, is even nicer because that immediately shows a willingness to help. So yeah, thank you so much for that, Neely. Because these are the kinds of gestures one never forgets when you're feeling down, as I was. So that's basically my story, really. Anyway, let's talk about Facebook. Facebook. Let's talk about what a very wise man once said would have an even bigger impact in the community than Red Bull had. Which I, by the way, totally agree with. The thing is, people first thought it was only T90, right? So, and when you said that, Nearly, you probably thought it would be T90, Viper, and Hera. So if they had all announced it simultaneously, I'm sure nobody would have disputed your assessment, right? But yeah, so first of all, let me say congratulations, Orion. First of all, I mean, regardless of what people think of your move to Facebook, the thing is, in order to be in a position where a company of that size is actually willing to offer you what I assume is a life-changing contract, you obviously have to be excellent at what you do. So before anything else, this is just a testament to what a great streamer you are. Now, this isn't the first time you're leaving Twitch for another streaming platform. A few years ago, you signed a contract with Mixer in a move that I believe you said you don't necessarily regret, but nevertheless, a move that if you knew back then what you know now, you probably wouldn't have agreed to. So why will it be different this time?
Well, to expand on the whole Mixer thing, so Mixer, a lot of people think I had like an incredible financial offer from Mixer. That's not the case at all. What Mixer essentially, I'm pretty sure if we talk pure money here, I would have made more money on Twitch than I did on Mixer. However, I was promised a lot of things on Mixer, such as, like, for example, I was going to be like to dive into this, I was going to be like the front face of Age of Empires 2, DE, for example. I was going to get access to create content and things like that before anyone else. Nothing of that those things happened. There were more promises, but I learned a lot from this whole experience because those promises were made to me vocally. Like, there was nothing signed or written down. So as a businessman, I learned a lot from this whole experience. Like, if I was offered the same terms and everything back then again, I would have taken it even knowing what I did, because I think as a person and the experience I gained from being there, all the people I worked with and everything, I think it was still very good life, like good life experience for me, both business wise and as a person. But yeah, like those promises that didn't come through made it a little bit of a bittersweet experience. And yeah, I definitely learned a lot. And what's different this time is, I mean, I obviously, there's a substantial amount of money involved here, where it's like, that's probably the main factor. No point hiding it. That's the main factor I'm making the switch here, because in the end, this is still, while I love the community and everything that we built on Twitch and all those things, it's still my livelihood in the end. While it didn't start out as my livelihood when I started streaming, it has become my livelihood. And I also have a family to take care of, and I have this thing here that I don't know how long this will last. I also think that, while this is not a main factor of why I'm moving, I think Twitch has been making some decisions lately that haven't been great for the creator themselves. Um, I obviously Facebook right now, I feel like it's not as good as Twitch, not even close. But from what I understand, they are investing a lot. I think it will improve the platform. I will continue to give feedback, and hopefully they will take my feedback on board as well. And of course, however long I will stay on Facebook, I want to make it as good as possible there. And yeah, like for me, it's like switching a job, right? I'm still within the same line of work. I'm just at a different company, and that is still exciting for me. And especially with Age of Empires 4 now coming out, there's a lot of excitement ahead. I'm really enjoying the game so far.
Hmm.
And yeah, I've obviously been streaming on Facebook now for a little bit over a week. It's different. There's a lot of things to get used to. Some things are not ideal, but hopefully we can improve those things to make it a really nice viewing experience for everyone. And yeah, just build up the same quality of stream there.
Hmm. Nearly personally, I was very surprised that most of the criticism directed at Viper and T90 was not necessarily directed at the fact that they would leave Twitch, but rather at the fact that they would join Facebook. I was a very early adopter of Facebook. I think I joined it in 2007
Boomer.
or something. Yeah, totally, totally, man. And back then, there really didn't seem to be anything negative about it. Especially for people like me who are living abroad, it allowed you to easily keep connected to your friends and family. When my kids were born and they were unfortunately too sick to travel, it allowed me to share the news and many other things. Now, of course, these days Facebook is something much more than that, and I obviously totally understand the concerns regarding spreading of misinformation, hate speech, and so on. But I feel like the younger folks only know that side of Facebook, the bad side of it, and they don't really know the good side of it because these days there are dozens of apps that do the same thing. But back then it was only Facebook, really. So I personally don't really know how to feel about Facebook. And I'm curious where you fall in this whole discussion of whether Facebook is worse or just as bad or better than Amazon. And for those of you who don't know, which I assume is a minority, Twitch is owned by Amazon.
Lots of questions, lots of tough topics. Are
Take your
both
time.
companies bad? Most likely. Would any platform that have major streaming for millions of people as an option be bad? Likely as well. Should that influence Viper's decision or T90's decision? Probably yes. The question is, where do you draw the line, right? People got really mad at me after T90 announced, and I said, yeah, for T90's money, I would have switched as well. And some people had me on like higher moral standards. And after saying that, I'm kind of questioning my belief system as well, right? It's funny how we always judge ourselves on our intent and our moral standards, and others on their actions. And
Great,
I
great way
I,
of
I
putting it.
don't really know what I would do in Vipers and T90s. Like obviously life changing money. Where do you draw the line? And I think that's something way bigger than Age of Empires, actually, right? It's like your whole belief system. And lots of people are getting really angry because apparently Facebook is so much worse. I personally don't know. And I can't like say which one is more evil there. And I don't think like Facebook nowadays is a website that is creating any good. Would that make me judge someone going there? Probably still not.
Mhm. 'Cause it's one of the arguments I've read a lot, which T90 when he announced his move, he said something to the effect of, "This is just a change of URL. URL. This is just a change of URL," which a lot of people took exception with, right? A lot of people said, "No, Facebook is evil, and yeah, Twitch is not good, but Facebook is just much worse." Um, would you like to chime in, Viper, or is this a little bit too sensitive? And I'll just edit this out if you don't want to say anything.
I mean, like in the end, there is always you have to weigh up things, and like I cannot. I'm not as informed as I probably should be on the whole topic, so it's hard for me to chime in either way. But in the end, for me, it's like I have to look at what's in front of me and make a decision that I think is the best for me and my future. That's the bottom line of it. Um,
Mhm.
that's pretty much what I would say on the topic.
Yeah, you just said it yourself. You've made no secret of the fact that money played a big role in your decision to switch platforms. And as someone who's self-employed myself, I totally empathize with that. And for me personally, I think that's a perfectly legitimate reason. I mean, your first and foremost responsibility is towards you and your family. That's it. And actually, in your case, you're not only self-employed, you're also totally reliant on the services of a third-party platform, which you have absolutely no control over, which I think it's almost worse because if Twitch or Facebook suddenly decide to shut down operations tomorrow, you immediately lose a big part of your income, basically. But I can understand the argument of all those who say the only reason you're being offered such a good contract is because you had a community of supporters who allowed you to grow this much as a content creator. And their argument is that you knew they wouldn't follow you to Facebook, and therefore you're abandoning them. What would you say?
I All I can say to that is pretty much I understand where they're coming from. I obviously knew as well. Like I've been talking with Facebook for months, right? It's not been like they came to me and I was like, yeah, let's do it.
I've heard about it
It's
in July, I believe. Can it be
yeah,
July?
it could be. I don't remember exactly, but it's been a long time. It's obviously been a long process, and I obviously know a lot of people would not take this lightly, and I am obviously sorry for that. But yeah, like I said, in the end, I have to. It's as simple as that. I have to look out for myself and what I believe is the best for me long term. Um, of course, in the end, I would be nothing without the people watching me and the people supporting me. That's where this opportunity came from. So I obviously understand where people are coming from. But that doesn't change the fact that in the end, this has become my livelihood, and I have to view it as that as well, to a certain extent. Doesn't mean that I'm less grateful or thankful for everyone and all the support I've gotten through the years, and I still want to provide the best content I can for them. It is on a different platform, obviously, a platform that some people don't like and don't want to fall over, which I accept and understand as well. But yeah, there's still content coming on YouTube, for example, and things like that. And yeah, like I can't really do anything else except continue doing what I'm doing. And while still, I do understand where people are coming from with their criticism, and that they probably prefer Twitch as a platform as well, regardless of anything on the backstory of the companies. They probably prefer Twitch viewing experience still. That's where they've been for years. It's like Age of Empires 2 people, Age of Empires 4. Age of Empires 2 is our home, right? We don't want to switch. I understand that. But yeah, it's obviously a difficult topic, and you cannot make everyone happy in the end.
Hmm. Nili, we keep hearing stories of streamers, big streamers even, leaving Twitch for YouTube or Facebook gaming. So is this YouTube and Facebook just actively trying to have a bigger share of the market by buying out streamers? Or is Twitch doing something wrong and somehow pushing all these streamers away?
I think it's the former. YouTube, like live streaming, might overtake television within the next 20 years or something. So, like, now that's probably a wild statement, but let's just agree that it will heavily grow over the next years. And I think it doesn't Twitch like grow 20% per year or something. It's like ridiculous numbers for an already multi-billion company. And people want their share of that cake. So it makes lots of sense. And I personally never felt treated unfairly by Twitch, so I would not get pushed away. I also knew for a very long time that like people always told me like, yeah, you're probably going to do this in 5 years. And I said like, no, if they decide like tomorrow Twitch Prime is not a thing anymore, then like 40-50% of full-time streamers simply have to find a new job, because that's like 40 to 60% of the income, right? And then we got a 10% reduction, people are already going mad, which I think is like really small. And I think that more people want their share, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Netflix comes around soon and tries to go into live
Interesting.
streaming as well.
Hmm. Interesting. I believe you have a bit of a different take, Viper, because you've implied you think Twitch is not doing all that it can to keep their streamers.
I think Twitch are very comfortable with their monopoly right now. I think a lot of the big streamers are probably getting approached by, for example, YouTube or Facebook, and I think Twitch are not willing to make the effort to keep the creators, right? Because they feel like, no, they think they have the best product, so they're just gonna like, either you stay here where we have the best product, or you can bugger off.
Yeah, they did pay people to have like exclusive content.
Yeah, they do have a lot of people on exclusive contracts. But what I mean is that, say, Tim the Tatman now, he moved to YouTube not long ago. I assume Twitch are aware that he was offered a great deal by YouTube. And but the question is, did Twitch try to keep him by offering him a contract
Counteroffer.
to like keep him there, you know? Same with Ninja when he moved to Mixer. Shroud when he moved to Mixer. Were Twitch there trying to keep them actively with a good enough deal, so to say? I don't know. But regardless of that, there has been some, like the thing they did now where they reduced the local fees for subscribing. It is in theory good for the audience, the viewers. More people can potentially subscribe because it's more affordable. But for the creator, I would say my estimate is that most creators lost 10 to 20% of their income, because not only does it decrease the price you get from a normal sub, also Twitch Prime gives you less from the local price. So like for my own revenue, I could easily see a 10-15% drop in revenue just from that. Now I'm fortunate, I'm a big streamer in quotes, but I'm thinking all those people that were like living month to month by streaming, if they suddenly see a 10-15% decrease in their income, that's life
It's a lot of
changing.
money.
It's life changing in a negative way for them. So I think things like that. And Twitch, what did they do? They did a nice thing, which was like a 3-month buffer, where it's like if you stream X amount of hours, you can kind of keep your income somewhat. But obviously, once that buffer is gone,
They also send out emails like half a year earlier. Like I think I got an email in like March where they said like, okay, we have projects running now and numbers are increasing and overall money should increase with those projects, and that's going to happen later this year. So I don't understand, like, obviously, like not everyone is reading their Twitch mails, but that is kind of on you. Like if you are that dependent on your income that you have to live off every paycheck that Twitch gives you, read their emails.
But the fact that they sent out those emails and give you the information doesn't change what is happening to your channel.
Well, long term, you should get more.
That's what they expect. That's not necessarily how it will play out.
No, but like that's basically every change you do with any platform. You do like modulations before you test it, and if it says okay, more money will get into the project, then we go into that direction. And that's
more
what they
money
did, and
gets
that's what
into their project, their
which
pockets.
in turn means
I think,
also
but
more
since
money
you are
to
getting
you.
a percentage cut, it's the same.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly long term from this how it's going to play out, obviously, but pretty much everyone I've talked to has seen a drop in their revenue. Of course, long term, maybe half a year from now, a year from now, they are back to their normal levels or higher. I don't know. It could be, but I still think it in the end is a negative change for the creator, but positive change for the audience and Twitch and Google or Amazon probably.
Okay, Nili, I believe the question on a lot of people's minds these days is if T90s and Vipers move to Facebook will have a negative impact on the Age of Empires 2 community. And right now, I struggle to see how can it not have a negative impact. I hope I'm totally wrong here, but let's say both T90s and Vipers viewership's numbers never get to the same level they had on Twitch. That means Hidden Cup 5 will have nowhere nearly as many viewers as Hidden Cup 4. And the same thing can be said of any tournament T90 casted on Twitch. So less eyeballs on live streams and tournaments means a potential decline of the player base. So what I wonder is, will Microsoft still be willing to sponsor Age of Empires 2 tournaments in 2022 if the numbers tell them the game is declining, especially when they have a new product on the market that they might be more interested in promoting?
Multiple questions again. So let's focus on the first part. So I think Viper and T90 won't get the numbers that they had on Twitch. That feels very likely. Right now, their viewer numbers are indicating that. That is bad because you said fewer eyes on the game, fewer people might buy it, and also like sponsors won't be that interested in going into more tournaments, right? Because Hidden Cup simply had 70k. If now the biggest tournament has like 20k, that being maybe KOTD or Genesis or whatever, that is simply way worse. So I think it's going to be significant cut when it comes to esport numbers with Viper and T90 leaving. One argument that you could make that like some people that are pro Facebook are making is that we are approaching a lot of people that never had contact with Age of Empires before, right? In T90's first stream, I think I had the numbers right. I think it was like 900,000 people saw his stream for at least a second. 200,000 saw it over 3 seconds, and over 25,000 saw it for over a minute. So, and those are people, I would assume like 90% of those never saw Age of Empires on Facebook, right? Or on maybe on Twitch. So maybe if we spread over all platforms with all influencers, that could give a bigger reach. That's a big maybe for me though.
Hmm.
And I don't view T90 and Viper as pure Age of Empires 2 streamers. I think they are now heavily switching to Age of Empires 4 as well. T90 probably more on Age of Empires 2. And I had talks with T90 before I took the Microsoft job. And I knew that it's likely that he will go to Facebook. And I told him that we will have to look at numbers and then see how tournament funding is going to look like, right? Because I can make a very easy argument giving him lots of money if he provides 70k on Twitch. It will be more interesting if he provides 10k over on Facebook with Hidden Cup 5. If Hidden Cup 5 is happening ever, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But still, I guess the question in people's minds right now is: are we going to see Microsoft-sponsored tournaments for Age of Empires 2 in 2022? And
one is already confirmed by MEMP.
by MIMP, right,
Yeah.
right. What I'm wondering is, are we still going to see a KOTD 5 or I don't know, or even an NAC 5 with Age of Empires 2 4? Sorry, NAC 4 with Age of Empires 2 if Microsoft has the feeling the game is declining.
That's an interesting thing I will need to talk about with people, right? Right now, it's every person that approached me. I think I have like 2 people over the last 3 months that approached me that wanted to do Age of Empires 2 events, and like 30 that wanted to do Age of Empires 4 events. So simply like the interest to work with me, work with Microsoft for Age of Empires 4 right now is way bigger.
Okay, wait a second. Does that mean your role as a tournament coordinator also applies to Age of Empires 4?
All Age of Empires titles. Like I had discussions with Age of Empires 3 as well. Yeah.
So you're the one deciding if we have Age of Empires 2 tournaments or Age of Empires 4 tournaments next year? Or how the
Not
exact
really.
balance
Like
is?
you can still host your tournaments. The question is like
I'm talking about Microsoft sponsored tournaments here.
in some form, yes, yeah.
Okay. So if you guys want to see more Age of Empires 2, just flood that mailbox from Nili. Let him know.
Make some
Let
good
him know.
arguments. I had lots of people like messaging me like, "Oh, I had a $30 tournament once, and all 8 viewers are really happy. If Microsoft now provides another 10k, we can make it a big one." Those are obviously the emails that won't really make it easy for me, but I read some good pitch decks for all 3, like 2, 3, and 4. Yeah.
Okay, so it all depends. It all depends on you guys. Okay, Age of Empires 4. Orion, I haven't played a single game from Age of Empires 4, but I've read a lot about it, and the general consensus at this point seems to be that it is an incredibly fun game to play, but not quite esports ready yet. Would you agree?
Yes. I think a lot of mechanics and civilization bonuses and all those things, the way the game plays out, really fun. I mean, right now we're still in the honeymoon period, right? It's new,
Mhm.
it's fresh, everyone is enjoying it. We're exploring the game, figuring out bonus civilizations, figuring out build orders, what's the best unit to use, what approaches. All that is super super fun. There are a ton of quality of life features missing that make the game feel not finished, and it makes the game have a bittersweet taste. Because like if all those things were in place on release, dude, the game would have been so good.
Hmm.
Now, issues with those all those quality of life features missing is it gives you as a competitor or like competitive player less control, and less control means less competitive in my opinion and less esports ready. Like there are so many small things such as you cannot shift Q a monk to pick up a relic and go back to the monastery easily. You cannot deselect if you have 5 villagers selected. You cannot deselect a single villager individually.
No customization of hotkeys.
Yeah,
I
customization
don't
of hotkeys.
understand that one.
There are so many small things that makes you feel like you have less control of impacting the game, and I think that goes against competitive and esport. But at the same, but still, I mean, the game is super fun, and if they actually fix those things, hopefully as soon as possible,
Hmm.
I think the game could have a real promising esport future as well. But at the moment, it's hard to see. But then again, if Nili says there's so many people contacting him about AV4 tournaments, probably Microsoft will get behind some of those. And yeah, well, we'll probably see. But yeah, I need I need them to make some of those changes, hopefully within like the next month or two, just to because I think a lot of competitive players will kind of lose a little bit of interest if all those things stick for a long time.
Yeah, it kind of depends on how fast they're willing to correct those things. Yeah, Neil, your take on Age of Empires for current current
I
state.
actually think the thing that Viper criticized is decreasing the enjoyment for the game, but as a viewer, you don't see it. So I think that's not really hurting esports. I think this is hurting like player numbers, enjoyment of the players, stream quality, and such. But for me, obviously, like observing is still bad, way better than AoE2DE when it came out, right? But it's still like missing so much.
Not a high bar,
And
let's be honest. Not a high bar.
yeah, that was, oh god. And like I think AoE2DE even had a company that was only booked for that spec overlay.
Wow.
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure. Like Witch or something they were called. Oh,
Value,
oh yeah, yeah. Hmm? No, I
good
think
value there.
yeah, that was rough. Yeah. And I see lots of potential, right? Lots of people are having enormous fun. I think like they broke 70K unique players this
It's
Sunday.
74,000. Yeah, 2 days ago.
Okay.
74,000 peak.
And what was Age of Empires 2 peak? At
38
48?
maybe?
38?
38. I
I
believe
had the
38,000.
I had the numbers the other day. So like interest is obviously enormous, right? The first beta 100,000 signups, the open beta 200,000 signups. So people are really jumping on it, and I think it gives us lots of potential. I think I can look at the numbers here for Age of Empires 2 high was 38K. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this is an unpopular opinion for me, but I think the game actually looks really nice. I mean, of course, if you really zoom in really close, some units look a bit too cartoonish. I agree with that. But most of the times, you're only really looking at the general outlines of units, right? So I think in general, the game looks very nice, actually. Maybe a little bit too dark, but I believe that's intentional. Okay, guys. So one of my viewers had a question that I thought would be interesting to have your take on. So I'm just gonna read it to you guys. I have it here somewhere. Wait a second. Yeah. So Marco Foley asks, "Do you think it was a mistake to put out a AAA RTS game that is not really fit for high-level competitive streaming, given that nowadays Twitch is amongst the best marketing means studios have to advertise their games? If you think about it, once the hype will be done, who will really play this game on stream? Orion,
Doubtful play.
Don will play it
No.
still.
I think they're still having a big success with it the way it was released, viewer number wise and everything. But like as a player, it's still frustrating, all those things, right? And I assume that frustration also goes over to the viewers as well when they're watching, and they take that on board, right? And some people might be like, I'm not going to buy the game because what this streamer is saying or whatever. So
But I guess the question is why? Why is it not in this state that you hoped it would be?
probably because they had a timeline where they wanted to release the game and they didn't want to push that deadline further.
And you think it's fair to concentrate more on the single player aspect of the game and less on the multiplayer aspect?
Every game these days is being released in early access, right? No game, like games are being released and then being developed after they're released. It's that's kind of the way games work these days, unfortunately. Like back in the day, like 15, 20 years ago, you a game was out, you bought it, and you could play the full game, and that was it. Nowadays, it's like you buy a game, you play it, and it's not even close to being finished. And 1 year or 2 years after you bought it, hey, game is finally finished. Again, I don't know how much. If probably they thought the game was finished enough that they can release it and it will be enjoyable for the masses. I think it is fine that they release it like this. There's still so many features missing, but as long as they add those features as soon as possible, it's still fine in my opinion. But yeah, it could have a negative impact considering a lot of people will share their negative thoughts considering the lack of these things. So, to what you're saying, yeah, it's probably a bad thing in some ways.
Nili?
Age of Empires 2 has 65% of their players playing single player only and never played a multiplayer game.
65. So that number has come down a lot. It used to be like 80-20 or something.
Well, maybe 80% of the people that are now online are playing single player, something like that, and 65 never played a single multiplayer or something like that. And single player players are craygasming out of like all the history facts, the videos, the campaigns, and I was always scared how little they cared about esports, right? Playing the alpha, having interviews with the developers, and I'm extremely positively surprised how they listened to our feedback and how much changed from the alphas that we played. Like units were absolutely unmicroable. Like how the archers shot, they took 3 seconds between every shot. There was no way of you turning around and microing anything. And obviously, hardcore Age of Empires 2 fans, that's no real micro for Age of Empires 4. It just, for my taste, was released so much better than what I feared. And if they do the progress they did in the last half year, in the next half year as well, we will be really happy nerds.
Is $60 too much money for what it currently offers?
Game Pass, $1 per month. Test it. Costs $1 right now. Like a full game, it feels a lot, but just test it. If you have the option Xbox Game Pass, I think it's so easy.
And then you can decide for yourself if it's too much money or not.
I mean, wasn't it free as well during the stress test? Everyone could download it and play it during the stress test, no?
I guess people
you
were
had
hoping
so
some of
many
the things missing would still be there.
Yeah, but still, you had so many options to try the game to get a feel for it, whether you like it or not. And then, like, obviously, money has a different value to every person, right? And then you have to make up your own mind if $60 is too much or not. But yeah, like, there's been options to try the game, and Xbox Game Pass as well. I think it's amazing value in general. So,
why are there not more Age of Empires 2 professional players in the Age of Empires 4 leaderboard right now? Is that a game that it's more akin to StarCraft and less?
I think Red Bull 5, right? Every one of the top 14 plus me was casting and like playing there in Age of Empires 2, while the beta that was closest to what we have right now was playable. And people like Lucifron played like 140 games there. And then they also played the beta where we did like YouTube preparation, uploads. Like I played like 8 games or something in the phase where everything is so unfair and how big our advantage was, while others, StarCraft 2 players that are only aiming for competitiveness, played another 80 games, right? Kasva has 260 games, while I have 60 games on AoE4 right now. So if you just completely try hard, and if you look at it as an esports, while Age of Empires 2 is still more of a viewing game than an esports, in my opinion, and therefore Age of Empires 2 players, let's say the top 10, top 15, were a bit behind.
Mm-hmm. It's just a
Wasn't
timing
there
thing.
like the early access supposed to be just for content creation though?
Yeah,
I'm
but
surprised so many people got access and just like grinded
yeah,
as.
I was surprised as well how many 3 viewer streams I saw
But it wasn't. They were
on
not
Twitch.
even streaming, right? People got
Yeah.
access and they just trained.
Yeah. Well, maybe if they have a YouTube channel, if they're a big name, right? If someone like Cyril, even if he doesn't upload anything to YouTube, tries the game, that is good promotion for Age of Empires, right? So they throw a key at him.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah, of course. But then he has to stream it, right?
I thought there was an implication, but apparently Microsoft didn't really enforce that.
Mm-hmm. It looked like you were checking my assessment at the Viper. Whether
Yeah, I had
they're,
to. When you said that, I have to open the leaderboard to have a look.
I think you're number 11. Am I correct?
Number 10, top 10.
Number
Oof,
10, top 10.
oof.
There you go. But you're the only one, right? From the Age of Empires 2 community.
Well,
Uh,
In the
Marine
top
Lord
10.
is a bit a
yeah,
brother as well.
he's
Mhm.
a brother.
Mostly
mother,
StarCraft, right?
mother.
Right. Mostly
Yeah,
StarCraft
he's mainly
player.
StarCraft.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a StarCraft 2 pro, but he played a lot of AV2D as well and got
Yeah.
quite highly rated there as well.
He
Is
was
that the
scratching
guy?
2.3K.
Is that the guy that went to the Maldives as well?
No.
Okay, I somehow confused him then. Okay.
Yeah, Tato is 18, Kapach is 19. I mean, there is a fair representation of AV2 players as well here. It's like the fun thing about Age of Empires 4 right now, it's bringing in so many people from different RTS, right?
It's amazing.
You
Yeah,
have
it's
StarCraft
amazing.
2 players, Age of Empires, all different Age of Empires games. You have people from Warcraft, League of Legends even. All
Mhm.
these different types of games are bringing people to this game, and that's really cool. I think Jordan is also 34 now. Doubt is 23. So I mean, there's still a good representation of AV2, but yeah, all those factors that Nili brought up, obviously, it's been a little bit of a disadvantage compared to the most competitive other players.
Mhm.
But I think as well, us Age of Empires 2 guys, I think we do a lot more experimenting as well. We play a lot of different civs, and that's obviously impacting our ELO as well.
Awesome point.
Like I've probably played like 15 Chinese games, and 12 of them are losses because Chinese just are very difficult to play.
Mhm.
And if I went French only, like I'm not saying other people are doing this, only playing French, for example, but I think French are undisputably the best civilization right now. If I played French only, I would probably be
It'd be higher. Mm-hmm.
way higher than I am, and I'm
Well,
ranked
Mongol
10.
TC rushing only.
Well,
Yeah,
Going
well, for
25-0.
exactly. So I think there are some factors as well. I think AoE2 players are more inclined to experiment more.
yeah, I
Not
think that's
as
an
dead try hard
incredibly
competitive as certain other people might be. But yeah, I think yeah, obviously we are mainly from AoE2, but yeah, it's I think we have a fair representation still.
Mm-hmm. All right, Orion. King of the Desert 4 is fast approaching. That's an Age of Empires 2 tournament. Just in case you'd forgotten. Will it be hard for you to concentrate your efforts in Age of Empires 2 with all this hype surrounding Age of Empires 4 at the moment?
Like I think for now, like the Genesis tournament is happening in the next weekend, not the coming one, but the weekend after. I will play probably only Age of Empires 4 until then,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Well, you
I'm
could
not
be out this Saturday, right?
all
Only
this
top
qualified.
8. Oh, only top 8 are going from this
Oh,
Saturday to next weekend.
wait, so this Saturday the
It's going
okay.
down to 8 players.
I need to change my schedule.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so okay. I need to update my schedule. But anyway,
Yeah, concentrating
yeah.
on Age of Empires 2 with all the hype going on.
Yeah,
For
but
AoE4.
either way, I'll probably still play a lot of AoE4 for a long time now. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, King of the Desert starts in what, a little bit over 2 weeks. I don't know exactly the format there either.
After Genesis the weekend, yeah. I think like
Okay.
18th are the first games.
That's Thursday, the week
Yeah,
after
I think
Genesis
it
then.
might be recorded games. Not sure.
Really? Oh, wait.
So
I'm
you
getting a lot
might
of
have to play
information.
earlier.
I'm getting a lot of information here that I wasn't aware of. But yeah, I will have to look into that. But I mean, as soon as the Genesis tournament is over for me, I will start looking towards King of the Desert. I'll see what the settings are and all those things,
Mhm.
and I'll try to play some H2 again. Some mechanics might be difficult, like attack move is A. We don't use attack move that often in AoE2. We use patrol often, and so I will have to get used to those things, like even after playing AoE4 for a day or two, I played AoE2, and I was clicking attack move all the time instead of
It
control.
was hard. Okay.
So some things like that will be difficult, but I think I just have to commit on periods of playing, right?
Yeah.
Before King of the Desert, I probably have to just commit, okay, I'm only playing AoE2 now for like a week or two to get the mechanics back. And then after that, I can think about whether I want to play more AoE4 or not, depending on what tournaments are coming up, obviously. Yeah. I don't remember what the question was.
Yeah, whether it would be difficult to concentrate your efforts on Age of Empires 2, but you've answered it pretty much. I'm wondering, are you able to tell already what game seems to do better in terms of viewership in your channel, Age of Empires 2 or 4?
For me,
I see T90 streaming a lot of Age of Empires 2 these days.
Yeah, like for me, I think I would have a lot more viewers if I did AoE2, because on Facebook, the people that know about me being on Facebook are my core audience, which is Age of Empires 2 viewers mostly. If I was on Twitch, obviously, I think I would have a lot more viewers on AoE4. But on Facebook, I think AoE2 is the one that would do better viewership-wise for me right now. But yeah, I'm enjoying AoE4 too much.
If you're eliminated early on, which I'm hoping will not happen, will you cover the tournament?
I think the casting experience is just too obnoxious at the moment. I don't think I would be able to. I will probably watch a bit of it, but I don't think I would.
I'm talking King of the Desert 4 here, just to be clear.
King of the Desert 4.
Yeah.
Eliminated early? What are you on about?
I said I'm hoping it will not happen, but...
okay. I thought you were talking Genesis, but... honestly, if I'm out in like round of 16, I don't know how many days would be following that from the tournament. I would probably start playing AoE4 again.
Okay. Crazy. That's how much you love it. What about you, Nili? How much coverage of King of the Desert 4 can we expect from you?
I think I will cover the final weekend.
And that would be quarterfinals, semi, and finals?
I think that's how Mem structured it, yeah. Like
Crazy.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something like that, yeah.
Apart from that, it's all Age of Empires 4 for you.
Yeah. I don't see myself like casting Vivi versus Bekti best of 5 Arabia right now.
Amazing how the times have changed. Well, guys, this was amazing. Thank you so much for the time. It was awesome to have you guys here, and much success to both of you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was really cool. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.